Good morning, students. I am Shomajit sir. Today I am here to deliver my lecture on topic virus, viroids, prions, and lichen. So watch the entire video lecture to get basics out of it. So this is from the chapter Biological Classification, Unit 1 of Class 11. So without any delay, let's start with the topic virus, viroids, prions, and lichen. So let's start. So let's start with the topic viruses, viroids, prions, and lichens. Now see viruses, right? So these viruses, viroids, prions, and lichens, so they are not mentioned in the five kingdom system of classification. So viruses, viroids, and prions are non-cellular and not truly living. Since viruses, viroids, and prions are non-cellular, that means they don't have a cell, that's why they are not truly called living, so they are not included in the classification. So you can see the structure of lichen, the viroid particle, and the prions. All right, and you can see the bacteriophage. Now viruses. So viruses have an inert crystalline structure outside the living cell. Next point is viruses are obligate parasites, and when they infect a cell, they take over the machinery of the host cell to replicate themselves, killing the host. See, viruses are non-cellular, right? They don't have any cell in the environment, but whenever they enter the human being, they enter its nucleic acid, that means either DNA or RNA. So now you can see coronavirus, isn't it? So viruses, what it does, it enters its RNA particle and then it captures our host cell or whatever the cell it enters. If any for human being, it enters or captures the host cell and they create its own machinery and replicates its own offspring. All right, so these are the viruses example you can see. So Louis Pasteur gave the name viruses, means venom or poisonous fluid. So Louis Pasteur gave the name viruses, that means venom or poisonous fluid. You can see the diagrams given below. So DJ Ivanovsky in 1892 discovered virus. He recognized certain microbes that causes mosaic disease of tobacco. All right, so he has recognized a certain microbes that causes mosaic disease of potato. So in the potato you can see a mosaic disease, and they were smaller than bacteria because they have passed through bacterial pore filters. So he has found that viruses are even smaller than bacteria because they can pass through bacterial pore filters. All right, so that is a tobacco mosaic virus, TMV we can call. You can see tobacco leaf where tobacco mosaic virus is there, and it is a RNA viruses because the nucleic acid is RNA. You can see the diagrams given here. Next, M.W. Bizonic in 1898 demonstrated that the extract of the infected plants of tobacco could cause infection in the healthy plants and called the fluids contagium vivum fluidum, infectious living fluid. That means if the extract of the infected plants are taken and they are taken to a healthy plant, it also causes diseases. So these are very dangerous particle viruses. So W.M. Stanley in 1935 showed that viruses could be crystalline and crystal consist largely of protein. All right, so he has said that the outer covering of the viruses are proteinaceous in nature and the nucleic acid can be DNA or RNA. So you can see bovine enterovirus 2, so bovine enterovirus 2, then satellite tobacco mosaic virus crystals. Next, a virus is a nucleoprotein, that is, it has a protein coat, capsid, and a genetic material. that is DNA or RNA. So viruses has a nucleoprotein, that is it has a nucleoprotein, that is protein coat, that is capsid, and a genetic material DNA and RNA. So inside there is a nucleic acid DNA and RNA, and outside is made up of protein coat, that is capsid. That's why it is called nucleoprotein. And no viruses contain both DNA or RNA. That means the nucleic acid is present, but either DNA or RNA. It doesn't contain both. And a genetic material, and these genetic material, that is DNA or RNA, present in the viruses are infectious. So you can see the virus, the T4 virus, that is bacteriophage T4 adenovirus, HIV retrovirus, you can see influenza virus. Outside entire body is made up of protein, that is capsid, and each unit of capsid is capsomer, and inside it the nucleic acid is present, either DNA or RNA, both will not be present, alright, and that is an infectious particle. Next we see viruses generally, alright, generally viruses that infect plants have a single stranded RNA. So generally the viruses that infect plants have a single stranded RNA, and viruses that infect animal have either single or double stranded RNA or double stranded DNA, right? Bacteriophages, viruses that infect bacteria. What are bacteriophages? Those viruses that infect bacteria usually have double stranded DNA. So you can see tobacco mosaic virus, that is a single stranded RNA. So you can see very nicely this virus particle has been given here. Viruses is injecting into infecting the bacterial cells. The outermost every cell, every outermost body or the outer body is proteinous made, and inside you can see DNA or RNA present. Next, the protein coat capsid made up of small subunit called capsomer, as said just now, that protects the nucleic acid. Alright, the outermost protein coat that is made up of. So the outermost protein coat is made up of capsid, as I have said, and the smaller unit of capsid are called capsomer, that protects the nucleic acid. So capsomer are arranged in a helical or polyhedral geometric forms. You can see the outermost covering. You can see here the polyhedral geometric, that outermost is entirely capsid, and each unit of capsid or capsomer all are made up of protein, and inside the capsid are nucleic acid, that is either DNA or RNA. Alright, it can, so there can be polyhedral geometric capsid or it can be helical capsid. So in tobacco mosaic virus it has a helical capsid, alright, whereas the bacteriophage, that means those viruses that infect bacteria, have a polyhedral geometric capsid. Now viruses causes diseases like mumps, smallpox, herpes, influenza and AIDS. So in plants the symptoms can be mosaic formation, leaf rolling and curling, yellowing and vein clearing, dwarfing and stunted growth. So you can see the example: mumps, smallpox, herpes, influenza, AIDS. Whereas in plants, those were in animals. In plants you can see tobacco mosaic viruses. Alright, diagrams are nicely given. So you can see in tobacco mosaic virus, alright, the helical capsid, RNA is there. You can see very nicely given. Tobacco mosaic virus 20 nanometer, adenovirus 50 nanometer, influenza virus is 50 nanometer, bacteriophage is 50 nanometer. All the diagrams, all the different types of viruses are given here. Now what are viroids? So what are viroids? It is an infectious disease with a free low molecular weight RNA and no protein coat. So viruses are what? They are even smaller than viruses, and they doesn't have the outermost protein coat. They only have a genetic material. So these are smaller than viruses. I said no, these are even smaller than viruses, and it was discovered by T.O. Diner in 1971, and he found that it causes potato spindle tuber diseases. So it causes potato spindle tuber disease. You can see the viroid particle, the viroid and the potato spindle tuber diseases. Alright, so T.O. Diner, it has given this. Understood? So viroids are what? They are even smaller than viruses, and they doesn't have an outermost protein coat. They only have a genetic material, that is RNA, that is also in low molecular weight. Now, what are prions? What are prions? So these are abnormally folded proteins that cause some infectious neurological diseases. All right. So they are abnormally folded protein. You can see from prions figure given below, and this causes infectious neurological problems or neurological diseases. These are smaller in size to viruses. These prions are also smaller to viruses in size. Right, they cause bovine spongiform encephalopathy, all right, BSE, and mad cow disease in cattle, and its analogous variant to CR Jacobs disease, that means CJD disease in humans. You can see mad cow disease and Jacobs disease. All right. So prions, they have abnormally folded protein structure, and it causes neurological disease, and it is also smaller to a size of viruses. Now, what are lichens? Lichens is a symbiotic association with algae and fungi. All right, where algae is the phycobind partner and fungi is a mycobind partner. All right, so the algal component is called phycobind. These are autotrophic in nature, and the fungal component is called mycobind. These are heterotrophic in nature. So the algal component or the algae does photosynthesis and prepares the food and supplies it to fungi, and whereas fungi in return they provide water and mineral to the algae. So they live in symbiotic association. All right. So mutually useful association between algae and fungi. So this is a lichen, it's a symbiotic association there. So you can see the diagram, foliose true dwelling lichen. You can see what lichen. All right. So the internal structure of lichen is given. See, on top it is a fungal member, and below also the fungal member, and intermediate between the mesophyll means between intermediate cells are the algal members. All right. So algae prepare food for fungi, and fungi provide shelter and absorbs mineral nutrients and water to its partner, as I've said. And lichen is very good pollution indicator. They do not grow in polluted areas. So wherever you find lichens growing, that means there are no pollution in that area. So you can find in hilly areas where a lot of lichens are there, that means there are less pollution are there. Okay. Thank you, student. This was all about the entire video lecture of virus, viroids, prions, and lichen. Hope you have watched the entire video lecture and you have learned basics. You have received the basics out of it. So stay at home, stay safe. I'm Shomjit sir signing off for today, and again we'll meet in the next class. Thank you, students.